Good afternoon, fellow ruminators. Well, good morning, I should say. I should not say good afternoon because this video will be published in the morning. But I welcome you back to another session of Rumination with Andrew. And we have breaking stories this morning, and that is why I have come here on this platform. The Prime Minister, Dr. Andrew Holness, has finally announced the election date. And the election is scheduled for September 3rd, with nomination day being August 18. So that is the election date. Prime Minister Andrew Holness has finally broken silence on the date on which Jamaicans will head to the polls to elect the future Prime Minister of Jamaica, whether Andrew Holness or Mark Golding. Now, the Gleaner opened up this morning with Jamaicans will lead to the polls on September 3 to decide who will lead the country for the next 5 years. And this is the title of my YouTube video today, who will win the election on September 3rd. Now, Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness made the long-anticipated announcement at a mass rally in Halfway Tree on Sunday evening, calling on voters rather, to choose Jamaica and grant the Jamaica Labour Party an unprecedented third consecutive term in office, which would be historic, unprecedented, as the newspaper is suggesting here, for the JLP. The PNP has already won a third consecutive term in office under the leadership of Mr. PJ Patterson. So Andrew Holness also wants to achieve that feat. It's all about competition. It's not about solving the problems of Jamaica. Now, he promised that Dr. Andrew Holness even greater investment in education, healthcare, housing, water, and road infrastructure, and the implementation of a rural school bus system aimed at improving access and safety for students. But I think that he should also emphasize an urban school bus system also, because many of our students in Kingston and around those areas, Spanish Town, need also a bus system, a school bus system in which they can travel to school safely and on time. Now, the PNP is also campaigning and making its campaign. And could I just here pause a second to congratulate and to commend Mark Golding on postponing yesterday's mass PNP rally in Crossroads, because the JLP was holding their conference in Halfway Tree, and it would have created some amount of friction between both parties. And at the last moment, Mark Golding used wisdom and understanding to postpone that event. My understanding, based on an article I read this morning, was that Mark Golding had already scheduled that appointment with his party before the JLP announced that they would have met in Halfway Tree to announce the election date. We don't know if that is true because, according to the writer, these are just allegations, or it is just allegation, because Jamaicans never know really what is happening. Everything is allegation. We don't know what is happening in that country. But if that was so, and the Prime Minister was aware that the PNP had already booked an appointment to have been at Crossroads, I think that also is in poor taste. But perhaps the Prime Minister did not know, or the story might not be true, because yet again, these are just allegations, according to the writer in the Observer this morning. So the PNP, the opposition party under Mark Golding's leadership, which holds 14 seats, is pushing for a new direction under its Time Come campaign. The party, racked by public divisions over the last decade, now projects unity. It has cited its 2024 local government election performance as proof it is regaining credibility with Jamaicans. So the PNP is prioritizing economic inclusion, greater access to housing, especially for young, middle-income persons, and reforms in healthcare and education. Now, they're all making these sweeping, broad, generalized promises, not saying how they are going to accomplish such a feat. We don't even know, as I'm saying, the current agreement with the International Monetary Fund and the fact that our debt has to go down to 60% of GDP. We are not sure what they're doing and how they're getting their monies, but they're telling us what they're going to do, and it sounds good to the naked eye. But we have to ask questions in terms of how are they going to achieve such great economic accomplishments that they are promising the people. But oftentimes Jamaicans don't think about that. They think about the feel-goodism, what sounds good to their ears, and then they will vote for that particular person. So Mark Golding has positioned himself as a champion of the marginalized. And the PNP always does that, right? That they are the champion. And of course, the Jamaican Party, Labour Party also does that. They're champions of the marginalized, arguing that Jamaica needs a government that puts the people at the center and uplifts the vulnerable. We have never had that government. We have never had a government that put people at the center of its governance. That has never occurred in Jamaica. The PNP is pledging to construct 50,000 affordable homes, offer a 500,000 deposit, grant to young prospective homeowners, and implement a range of social support measures such as expanded school meal programs, academic interventions in low-income areas, and full university scholarships for the first person in each family to matriculate. Now, I wonder how they're going to prove that that's the first person to matriculate for college. How are you going to prove that? I don't know. We just come up with these ideas and then, people are going to find tremendous barricades in terms of whether they're qualified or not for the scholarships that are promised. We're seeking a mandate from the people, and we want to do so on the basis not only of the failing and inadequacy of this government, but because of the promise that we are bringing to the people, Golding said at a recent rally in Brownstown, St. Anne. So the two parties are up for another who will win competition and battle. The battle for Jamaica and the future of Jamaica is about to be fought on September 3rd. And we are hearing that it is the most or will be the most consequential election of all times. And the question is, who will win? That is a question that we should be asking at the moment. Now, we have said on many occasions that based on what we're seeing and the political climate and the momentum that the GLP has been building over the years, in fact, it has just released its booklet of over 256 political accomplishments. And also when you look at the propaganda and the ability, the dexterity of Andrew Holness to communicate his achievements and the fact that he's going around the country and he is dialoguing with the people, it seems clearly to me that the GLP is on for a third consecutive term in office. Not that I am desiring that they win a third term, because I think that might make Dr. Andrew Holness a little bit arrogant, as PJ Patterson was, but we cannot negate the reality that Mark Golding and the PNP really have not put a clear message, have not presented a clear message to the people. And because of that, and because of the fact that they say something here and they have to retract on another occasion, it shows Jamaicans that they're not ready for leadership. They're not ready for leadership. Another thing is that the JLP has been very skillful at, crafting the narrative surrounding FinSAC and the fact that the PNP were the only ones responsible for FinSAC. And Jamaicans believe them, think that, the PNP were the ones who caused that disaster, the disaster that we saw, that financial collapse in the 1990s. But the fact is that when we look at the political history, I have said to you that Olint and also Cash Plus and SSL, we could describe it also as another FinSAC. The first FinSAC in the 1990s was a financial economic attack that was launched on the middle class, right? The solid middle class in Jamaica, the productive class. That was the war that was waged against them or on them, the productive manufacturing class. And they were ravaged and they were almost completely wiped out. And that was the death knell of Jamaica's productive capacity. Now, we have also the FinSAC number 2.0, that was launched on now the working class, those people who have worked hard for their monies and they have perhaps had investments in their assets and they sold their assets and they actually invested the proceeds from those sales into Holland and also Cash Plus. We have Usain Bolt, who invested in SSL, and we had numerous stories of other Jamaican citizens who invested in SSL, to all their investments, their monies, and everything went haywire. And our political elites and also economic elites were the ones who seemed to have stolen their wealth. So the fact of the matter, we have had FinSAC under both political parties, not to mention that the GLP also benefited from FinSAC 1.0. And many of our politicians, including the GLP, they got houses and assets of the people whose assets were actually stolen from them. Okay, so we have to understand that while the PNP might have been in power, and we can say the same thing vice versa for the PNP being out of power during the Bruce Golding's-led administration, and the fact that he and his cronies were complicit in what was happening during Cash Plus. They never regulated those companies, Orange and Cash Plus, and had or caused many Jamaicans to have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Hundreds of thousands of dollars that they lost under the GLP leadership. And nobody has batted an eye. And the PNP has not really, apart from just making some outlandish statements, because they want to win, because it's a party. This is a fiesta. This is not a real election as you're thinking, because they have already been selected and you are electing them. But it doesn't matter who wins, because the fact of the matter is that the elites already run the show, and they control the country. And that is why Usain Bolt can't complain and the others can't complain, because these people are too powerful and you can't go up against them. Okay? Very difficult for you to go up against them, but you still go and you vote for them. You still go and you vote for them, even though you have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars, because that is how they show you love the game and they play the game with you. Oh, we need a government. Yes, you need a government, but you don't have to endorse that government. You don't have to vote for that government. Okay? If we understand that we need a government, we need a responsible government. A government that will do what the people desire that they do. A government that will not run roughshod over its people. That is the sort of government that we need. We don't just need a government to just sit in Jamaica House and say that they're the government, right? And to treat us as slaves. And that is what is happening around the world, including in the mighty United States. And people are just comfortable with what they see, and they do the same thing over and over again. And they come and they make the same promises. And we think that that is how the show should be run. Okay. Now, the polls, as I indicated some times ago, shows that the GLP is not leading by an impressive amount. In some cases, the PNP was leading narrowly, had a narrow edge over the Jamaica Labour Party. Okay. So the polls really have been confusing, and nobody really knows in terms of who will win in terms of as far as the polls are concerned. With regard to our economic performance and the narrative surrounding that, Dr. Andrew Holness is going to win the election because he has brought down the debt. You know, think we're now at 67% of GDP, and that is a narrative that has been floated around. And even though that is coming with consequences, and there were, huge sacrifices made to accomplish that, but Jamaicans are not thinking about that. They're thinking about the fact that they believe him. And I hear people saying that we have a lot of national reserves, I think amounting to millions, if not billions of dollars of national reserves. So it makes us very rich, according to them. But national reserves don't make us rich, because who do they belong to? The national reserves belong to the elites, right? And they're saving for themselves. They're not saving for you. And you can see when you have a hurricane that they're not helping you as you think. You have to find your family members and friends to help you, the church in some cases, but the government often is not there to render any help. But they like to take the credit that they helped, right? And they did all that should have been done to save your lives. Right? Don't they like to do that? Absolutely, they like to do that. Now, when you look at the leadership, the leadership capacities of both leaders. I still think that Mark Golding has not cemented himself as a vigorous leader who would stand up or who will stand up for the rights of all Jamaicans. He says it and he's able to verbalize these things, but he has not given us the impression that he will be able to do so. Okay. Now, all of the matter of who will win also depends on the vote turnout, because we know that in the history of Jamaica, the voter turnout has been very low. Voter turnout has been very low. So all of that depends on who is going to win. And let's say that you have a huge turnout and those persons who turn out vote for the JLP, they could vote for the JLP or they could vote for the PNP. We don't know. If Jamaicans decided to say you decided, because the last time we had was 36% general election, the last general election, I think was 36 or 37% of the populace, but it was during COVID. So maybe many people were turned off. They decided not to vote because of what was happening with that pandemic. But perhaps they will decide to vote this time. So let us say 60% of the people go out to vote. And I understand you have over 2 million people on the electoral list who are eligible for voting or eligible to vote. So the fact of the matter is that if you have 60% of those 2 million people, over 2 million people turn out to vote, and to say that one decide that they increase in the voter turnout, decide to vote for either parties in terms of which one will they vote for on a grander scale, on a greater scale, then I think that that party will win. So it's a lot of factors that will have to be determined. But I think that Andrew Holness, because of his manner, his gift of explaining where he is and where he's taking Jamaica to, then I think, and Jamaicans love the superficial. And superficially, we can see that he's doing some things. Not everything that he says he's doing, because people are still complaining about the roads, but they can see the ones that are fixed or being fixed are being done so in a very great and impressive manner. Okay. Now, we know that as far as what voters, the things that matter to them are, one, we know the bread and butter issues, the economy. And even though many Jamaicans are not able to afford the cost of living, the high cost of living, I should say, they still want to vote for Andrew Holness. Okay, but Andrew Holness also controls the narrative surrounding the economy. And he's saying that the economy is doing fantastically well. So it means, therefore, that people are going to vote for him, the debt is down, okay? People are getting housing, okay? And lots of things are happening. They have a huge national reserves, okay? Jamaica is going to be the Singapore of the Caribbean. All of these things are impressive statements to make, and it seems to me that they jive well with Jamaicans. They have captured their imagination, and they are willing to give Dr. Andrew Holness a third consecutive term in office. So I think that on that basis, I think Andrew Holness is going to win the third consecutive term in office, and that is how the show runs. And Jamaica will continue the same. Nothing will change fundamentally. Nothing will change fundamentally. But as far as the electioneering and the politicking are concerned, Dr. Michael Andrew Holness, Dr. Andrew Michael Holness, why am I always saying Dr. Michael Andrew Holness? Dr. Andrew Michael Holness will win, will see a third consecutive term in office. Thank you so much for joining. I hope that you'd like, share, and subscribe back the video so the videos can be shared with as many people on the platform. And please remember to leave a kind donations, if you will, if you can, if you're able, to Andy_Tucker_450@hotmail.com. See you in another video, and make sure you stay safe and take care. We need now to not be crude and aggressive to each other, and let us respect each other's political choice and each other's political decision. We don't need to have a bloody election. Thank you so much for joining. All the best. See you in another one.